Hello YouTube, this is Afro Man of Team Island MTG, and I'm here to show you a blue-green beater budget eldrazi aggro deck. It's a lot of creatures. We're going to run a lot of creatures, quite a bit. This is really budget. This is a bunch of cards I found in packs and dual decks and stuff. Just a little something to get you started in standard. So let's go ahead and look at these creatures. We're going to start with the Eldrazi because they're the namesake of the deck. We're going to run 3 Blister Pod. It's a 1/1 for 1, turn 1 green. And when he dies, he produces a 1/1 Scion, which is really great. We run Ruination Guide, which pumps all of our Eldrazi. Another really great way to up this deck is to buy more of these, but I only had one in my packs, so I went ahead and built this. With this, we're going to run 2 Benthic Infiltrator, and it is a 1/4 with Devoid and Ingest, and it can't be blocked, so every time it swings, they're exiling the top card of their library. That works really well with another card that we're running, Altar of the Brood. So we know we're trying to really just ping everything they have in their deck off, and then it really fuels spells later where we got to move things from exile into play. Our first big Eldrazi is 5 mana for a 4/4, Kozilek's Channeler, and he taps for 2 mana, so he's like Hedron's Archive with a body. Find a way to give this dude Vigilance, and then you can tap into Eldrazi on your second main phase after you've swung him for 4. We're going to run 2 Deathless Behemoth, which are 6/6 for 6 with Vigilance, and has Flashback if we sack 2 Eldrazi Scion. We don't have too many Scion producers in the main board, but if that becomes a problem, we have plenty of green cards in the sideboard to just, slide in and make that more available. He's a great body, hits usually turn 4, and is a great beater. Oblivion Sower is great. When he hits the board, you exile your opponent's top 4 cards off their library, and you get that land, which really helps you ramp into other Eldrazi the same turn that you played this one. This one can also hit turn 4. He's a 5/8, and that's about what he's really good for is when he hits the board, and then he's a big body that's hard to kill because of his toughness. Our last 2 Eldrazi are 2 Ruin Processor, which is a 7-drop for a 7/8, and if we pull a card from exile into our opponent's graveyard, we gain 5 life, which is really good at the point in the game when you would play this, which is mid to late. It helps us survive against aggro-y decks, and so, we can usually pound those out by the time this hits the board, but, that's a thing. We're going to go ahead and move to the non-Eldrazi creatures. We're going to run a Caustic Caterpillar because we don't run Naturalize, and, that was really a flavor choice, and this really just helps us fill up our graveyard and pings out our opponent. It's a nice 1/1, turn 1 play. It's not a bad card. It fits pretty well. 2 Ruined Servitor, because it's colorless, so it gets a pump off Ruination Guide, and also when it dies, we draw, which is another thing that we enjoy. So there's 2 of these. Coral Helm Guide is a 2/1 from Battle for Zendikar. It's blue. It's a 1/2, or 1 and a blue. And tap 5, and you can keep a creature from being blocked this turn, which is pretty great. And so, this is great late game to keep your Eldrazi going through. Next, we're going to run Yiva 4-Mage, and when it hits the board, it's a pump. And, it's kind of got a small body for how much it costs, but, you can get a pump and a 2/2 body, a chumper, which really works. I'm going to save this other creature in the curve for later. We're going to roll into Giant Mantis and Somberwald Alpha. Giant Mantis is a 2/4 with Reach for 4 mana, which really helps protect us against flying. We only have one other creature that can block flyers. Then we're going to run Somberwald Alpha. Every time one of our dudes gets blocked, it gets a pump, and then you can give dudes trample. So if Coral Helm Guide isn't making an Eldrazi unblockable, we get rid of the chump here with the trample. Next, we're going to move into Wavewing Elemental, which is I don't really like that it's got landfall because of how late it hits the board. But it hits the board, so it's 6 mana for a 3/4 flyer, but when a land hits the board, it becomes a 5/6. So it kind of curves out, but, we have lands that hit twice per turn, so late game, this could actually almost kill our opponent if it hits right. Our next to last creature is going to be Segmented Crotic. Moving along in the curve, we've got a lot of expensive cards. This Morph lets it hit early, and then you can Mega Morph it earlier by the time your opponent has forgot about it. It usually doesn't work game 2, game 3, but game 1, they're not expecting this, so it hits, and it works. It's a 6-5, but if you Mega Morph it, it's a 7-6. Next, we're going to run Surrak, but only one. Surrak is great for every reason you can imagine. He's a 5-4. He can give himself haste when he hits the board. And he also gives Eldrazi haste if, they hit the board while he's there. Great, great card. And we're going to move... That's all of our creatures. We're going to move into the artifact base because these are actually pretty important to the deck. First, we have 3 Altar the Brood. So whenever we play a permanent, we're milling our opponent's top card for each one of these that we have. So the more of these that we play, the worse and worse that gets. Then we're going to run 3 Cranial Archive, which is 2 mana, and it's Learn from the Past on a stick. So it hits the Altar of the Brood trigger, and you also get the card draw, but it gets exiled, so that's not that great. But it works. It's a budget deck. Then we've got 2 Hedron Archive. Tap to add 2 mana, and then tap 2 and sack it for card draw. The card draw is really, really nice. We're going to move on into our colorless spells, which there are only 4. We have 1 Titan's Presence. It's you get to exile a dude. You got to tap 3 and then reveal an Eldrazi or other colorless creature from your hand. And if the power of the card that you just revealed is greater than the power of the card you want to exile, it gets exiled. It's removal, it's great, and it hits any point in the game. It hits hard. Then we're going to run Spell Shrivel. We don't run too much counter power, but we've got more on the sideboard. Tap 3 to counter somebody's spell, and if they don't tap 4, it gets exiled, which powers Ruin Processor. And then we play 2 Scour from Existence, which means that it's 7 mana for an exile target permanent, and it really just lets us late game, exile whatever our opponent is using to block, and swing in and win the game. And then we're going to round out with Become Immense. We all know why Become Immense is good. I don't think I need to talk about this too much. 6 mana for a 6/6 pump with Delve is really, really nice. We're going to go into our mana base. We run Fertile Thicket, Sanctum of Ugin, and Blighted Woodland. Fertile Thicket lets us dig for top deck mana early. Sanctum of Ugin, it's only colorless, and then once we cast something huge, we get to search for something else huge. I believe it's 7, cost 7 or greater, and then you get to search for a colorless creature and put it in your hand. So if you play Ruin Processor, you can go search for another Ruin Processor by sacrificing Sanctum of Ugin. Then we run Blighted Woodland, which also taps for colorless mana, but if you tap 3 and a green, and then tap this separately and sacrifice it, you get to put 2 more land on the ground, which is a 3 trigger for Altar of the Brood. Then we're going to run 8 Forests, and we're going to run 8 Islands. Next, we're going to go into the sideboard. There's not too much exciting going on there, but it is sideboard, and it's there to change up the game a little bit. First, we're going to move into our foggy spells. This is really why we're running blue, is for these and the counter spells in the sideboard. We're going to run 2 Tightening Coils, which -6/-0 and removes flying, which is something we're really weak against. And it really fogs out the game early if we don't have anything to block against a 3/3 by turn 3 and stuff like that. So then we'll run Reduced in Stature, which brings a creature to 0/2, but that doesn't work as well as Tightening Coils does with counters because that only does base power and toughness. This does a hard -6/-0. This just does base, which means that if you have Hangerback down, Hangerback already has a base 0/0, so that won't hit Hangerback at all. Next, we'll run Vine Snare, which is fog for creatures power 4 or less. So by turn 3, if they're swinging in with a lot of tokens, let's say they hit turn 1, they play Warden of the First Tree. Turn 2, they pump them up. Turn 3, they play Dragon Fodder, and they have some way to swing in with all 3. I don't know how they would do that, but so they're swinging in with a lot of power. You do that and keep yourself alive off of a turn like that from a lot of damage. Next, we're going to go into our odds and ends spells, which would just be a few. We've got 2 buffs. We've got Might of the Masses because we run a lot of creatures, and a Titanic Growth, which gives target creature +4/+4. Then we're going to run Anticipate, which is tap 2 for looking at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put 1 in your hand, and then put the other 2 on the bottom of your library, so it really helps you cycle through expensive cards early in the game. Then we've got Retreat to Kazandu, so if we're playing an aggro strategy, that life gain really helps us survive the grindy early game, and just that life gain really helps us against aggro. Next, we're going to run the Scion Producers. We're going to run an Eyeless Watcher, 2 Eyeless Watchers, which is 4 mana, 1/1, and it produces 2 1/1 Scions. So if you play that, then you can go ahead and cast Deathless Behemoth from your graveyard that turn. Then we're going to run Call of the Scions, which is 3 mana for 2 1/1 tokens, but it's not a body, so that's why Eyeless Watcher is 2 of, and it also costs 1 more mana. Then we run Brood Monitor, which is 6 mana for 3 bodies plus this, so it's 4. This is a 3/3, and then we have 3 1/1s. So that lets us cast Deathless Behemoth, and it has a pretty okay body with one of these pumps, which is really, really great. And then the last cards in our sideboard are our Counter Strength. And so we've got Stubborn Denial, which really every game hits. Every time you cast it, Ferocious Trigger hits. So it's a hard counter for 1 mana. Rakshas's Disdain usually might work if you don't delve a lot. We keep our graveyard pretty full, so that should keep people from being able to tap into Curve and keep on casting their spells. And we're going to run Bone to Ash, which is a counter target creature spell, and then we get to draw a card. So, you know, if they run a lot of creatures, we'll run this and Rakshas's Disdain, and we'll get it in there, and we will protect ourselves. This is blue-green budget Eldrazi, and we are going to do a Let's Play eventually, and this is Afro Man from Team Island. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments, and come back.